Welcome everyone, Tactical Edge here. Patch 5.1 introduced many new changes to Total War Warhammer 3, especially the new Conquest game mode, basically land battles with capture points, still retaining that balance of power, and will be showcasing a battle in this mode. This battle was from the Casual Faction Wars tournament I hosted earlier, and this features the Norscan army versus Dark Elves. I'll be playing as the Norscan. One of the favorite changes of mine in the patch is the buff to the Fimirs warriors. They're now 100 gold cheaper with additional weapon strength, making them killier, and when they're used to absorb enemy missile attacks, it will be more cost efficient for them to just take hits and absorb enemy ammo. Other than the heavy armor, they also have the 45% missile resistance when they have high leadership thanks to the from the miss ability, so they'll be like our tank and backbone of the infantry here, as our front line is a bit on the fragile side. Regular marauders mixed in with the glass cannon berserkers, one of them the unbreakable regiment of renowned brutes of the Hound. The fact that they're unbreakable would be a really key factor to help me hold the capture point in late game, leading the army Throg the Troll King, supported by Shaman Saucer of Fire with Burning Head and Cascading Fire Cloak. As for the mobility, we have 2 units of Skin Wolves behind the front line, hoping to use their anti-large against enemy cavalry. And then 4 units of Murder Horsemen to skirmish down enemy mobility and perhaps do some rear charging. On the other side of the battlefield for the Dark Elves, played by Joy Boy, going very skirmish heavy here with 4 whole units of Black Arcos is ready to skirmish and kite my Norscan army. Definitely a solid choice against the usually lightly armored Norscan army with their unarmored skin wolves, their marauder horsemen, their ice wolves, warhounds, that sort of stuff, and also of course an armored front line. Behind them, some Dread Spears and Sisters of Slaughter providing some melee backup, protected by a few Cold One Knights scattered across the back. And then 1 more unit of Dark Riders with shields to counteract any skirmishing firepower, like the Murder Horsemen, and leading the army. Morathi with Malkov's Mystifying Miasma and Soul Stealer. That's it for the army builds, now let's get the battle started. With the Dark Elves going so heavy on missiles, 4 units of Black Arquebusiers, I'll have to be really careful with the Berserker front line, as they're rather fragile with the lack of armor really make them suffer under a barrage of missile attacks like the crossbows here. However, due to the lack of armor piercing, I can send up the Fimirs warriors to absorb those missiles with their heavy armor, and on top of that missile resistance, further mitigating what damage that gets through the armor. And then of course murderers with their shields and rather cheap costs. I am very comfortable in sending them to die for the more elite and expensive berserkers at the back. Their shields also help them absorb some of that missile, making the Black Arquebusiers even less effective. Anyways, my front line is just gonna stand there to occupy the capture point, intimidating the Black Arquebusiers and preventing them from getting close to my berserkers. And on flanks, I'll be sending out the Murder Horsemen to skirmish away and whittle down the Cold One Knights with their javelins. Javelins do have a very solid armor-piercing value at 7. For a non-armor-piercing missile, that's really good. So they can do some pretty good damage against the Cold One Knights, putting a dent in their HP bar. Speaking of HP bar, you can see the Fimirs warriors just not taking much damage from the barrage of handbow crossbow bolts, while the Marauder Berserkers are safely sitting behind the front line. Regular Marauders taking more damage due to their lack of armor, but their shields is helping out, and the Dark Elves are just really struggling to cut through my front line and push them back. I'll be sitting on top of the capture point, holding on just fine, getting those victory tickets, and on the far side, a bit of a slip up in micro, leaving my horsemen being chased by Cold Knights and Dark Riders. But the other horsemen managed to survive, and on top of that, because the Dread Spears and Sisters of Slaughter are so desperate in pushing back my marauders, they are charging into one single marauder unit and bunch up a bit, and the Burning Head roasted 2 units for me. Actually, it's a 3 for 1 as it managed to hit this unit of Sisters of Slaughter as well, as they are now stuck on top of the Fimirs warriors. The Marauders are still getting peppered by crossbow, but honestly it is a fine trade for me, though I did make a mistake in micro at the back line here, as the Shaman Saucer of Fire has been exposed to a charge from Morathi with nothing else to protect him right now. My Skin Wolves are all out on the flanks, and now they're returning, but before they can even get into position and stop Morathi, she has bailed away, doing some noticeable damage to the Shaman Saucer and dropping that Wand of Caridon onto my Shaman Sorcerer, doing some really good damage. On the far side, another slip up in micro led to my Marauder Horseman being caught, but overall I am winning the frontline engagement for sure, as the Marauders and Fimir Warriors are beating down the Sisters of Slaughter. Over here, Fimir Warriors and Marauders getting into the back line. The Koan Knights are trying to stop their push and did some pretty good damage against the Fimir Warriors, but Throg the Trollgang is here, beating them down with the giant hammer he has, along the support with the Marauders. The Fiery Shaman Sorcerer is almost dead, but did manage to drop in another Burning Head to roast these Sisters and some of the Black Arquebusiers behind them as well, so squeezing out the last bit of his value before he gets eliminated from the battlefield by Morathi herself. Skinwolves are coming in, trying to save the caster. Same goes for Throg here, putting a big hit into Morathi, but this might be too late to rescue the Shaman Sorcerer, as the Soul Stealer is coming in. Once it hits the Shaman Sorcerer, that will drain away the last bit of his HP, and I'll be losing my magic support. Frontline though, I'm holding on just fine yet again, because, well, the Fimir Warriors are just eating all those crossbow fire with no issue at all. The handballs are just not doing enough damage to the Fimir. They have been shooting most of their ammo already, but just not even close to earning back their own value over here. On the far side though, the Brutes of the Hound charging out to meet the Dread Spears in combat. That exposes them to the Black Arquebusiers over here, so the handballs will be doing some good damage against my Brutes of the Hound, but of course, Brutes of the Hound, a very solid damage dealer, are cutting down the Dread Spears with no issue at all. The Skinwolves on the far side are moving away from the right flank, since the flank is basically controlled by the Fimir Warriors. These monstrous infantry are basically driving back all these battered Dark Elf units and pushing back the Black Arquebusiers as well. So the Skinwolves will be going after these Dread Spears, hoping to rout them off, so the Berserkers and the Skinwolves can then move on to the next unit, the Black Arquebusiers behind them, shutting down their firepower and preventing more damage from them. Skinwolves over here trying to fight the Coat Knights and should be able to do some pretty good damage. Morathi is in the mix though, so that might be a bit of a trouble for them due to Morathi's anti-large, and the Dark Riders are piling in. The Horsemen have been providing fire support and even charging into melee now, but it's too late to save the Skinwolves, as they are now being focused down by Morathi and the Dark Riders, even a Malkoff's draining their health away. Berserkers in the tree line have been engaging the Dread Spears for quite a while and managed to cut down quite a few of them, almost finishing off the unit, and once they're done with the Dread Spears in the forest, they can move out to capture the point or even start pushing the Black Arquebusiers behind the point. The Fimir Warriors, with the Sisters of Slaughter being almost finished off by the Marauder Berserkers, they are now moving on to the Black Arquebusiers here, trying to intercept them and prevent them from capturing the point and keep those victory tickets coming in for my army. Brutes of the Hound on the far side, slicing up some Cold One Knights. Yes, they're mostly anti-infantry and doesn't have armor piercing, but they just have enough offensive stats that they can even beat down enemy cavalry. And with a sandwiching charge of the Marauder Horsemen slamming the back of the Black Arquebusiers, the Black Arquebusiers have been routed away. The Marauder Berserker saturating in also helps out a lot, and now even the regrouped Koan Knights are being beaten up in this blobbed up melee fight. Morathi is in the mix though, and he might just drop a Soul Stealer anytime to drain away the health of my remaining units in the blob, including these very weakened up Fimir Warriors. They didn't do as much damage, but their main contribution really isn't reflected with the damage value, but instead it is their absorption of all the handbow ammo, preventing the Black Arquebusiers from shooting and kiting my Berserkers in the late game, who are now forced to fight those Berserkers in melee. And Berserkers, now they are subjected to Soul Stealer, but they are fighting on just fine in melee. Frog also slaps Morathi in the face with his giant hammer, so Morathi will have to pull back as much as she enjoys the pain. On the far side, these Black Arquebusiers manage to pepper down the Brutes of the Hound with the handbow shots, while the Skinwolves on the far side, they have been routed earlier as they were fighting a bunch of Dark Riders and Koan Cavalry, and Morathi was in the mix, but they have returned with a bit of regeneration healing them up. Same for the Skinwolves over here, who we have seen been routing away from Morathi and the Dark Riders from the earlier fight. The Dark Elves are focusing around the capture point, so nothing's really threatening the Skinwolves, and they can regenerate health to keep my balance of power high. And the Berserkers are trading really efficiently into the Black Arquebusiers. These Berserkers have been fighting enough that they have fully activated their Berserk ability, getting that 20% physical resistance and 13 extra melee attack. And yeah, they are just cutting through all these Black Corsairs regardless of their armor, since they do have very impressive weapon strength and bonus versus infantry, getting the exact trait they want. Morathi dives down onto the ground but get caught by Throg. Once again got slapped in the face by his giant hammer. Berserker is being finished off by the Melkov's mystifying miasma, but that's not gonna save the Black Corsairs, who are being slammed by a bunch of skin wolves and also being charged by Marauder horsemen earlier. More Black Corsairs coming in, trying desperately to capture the point, but I sally forth my Marauder Berserker to intercept them, and they cannot step foot into the capture zone. And with that, I should be able to secure the capture point under my control. And before Morathi gets smacked by Throg's big hammer once again, Army losses kicked in and ending the battle with Morathi in a rather not safe for work position. GG to my opponent Joy Boy for the battle, and for the army performances here, you can see the Black Corsairs didn't actually earn back their value by shooting their ammo. They actually used up all their ammo, and only one unit managed to get some value back by shooting at the Brutes of the Hound for like roughly 1/3 of the game. That's because most of their ammo went into the Fimir warriors, who are heavily armored, missile resistance, and are now cheaper for acting as a bullet sponge. With that 100 gold cost reduction, the value that Black Corsairs can extract from shooting at Fimir warriors are even lower than before. Combined with their excellent abilities to mitigate missile damage that are non-armor piercing, yeah, they just sat there and take a bunch of shots in the face and still acted fine, continuing to beat down the Dark Elf infantry with their dual weapons and anti-infantry bonus, alongside the support from regular Marauders and Berserkers. And because of all the ammo going into the Fimir warriors, the handbows don't actually have enough shots left to shoot up my Berserkers in the late game, so the Black Corsairs had to engage the Berserkers in a melee fight, which they promptly lost due to the anti-infantry bonus and solid weapon damage of the Marauder Berserkers. Even the Brutes of the Hound almost earned back their own value despite being shot up pretty bad by the hand bows. I did miss micro a lot of my mobility though, so the skin wolves and quite a bit of my Marauder horsemen wasn't quite able to earn back their own value. At the same time, the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire in his short lifespan managed to do some devastating damage to the Dark Elf infantry with those burning heads, and Throg basically helped sustain the balance of power alongside the Skin Wolf's regeneration, just getting that HP back and slapping Morathi with his big hammer. As for Morathi, she did some really good damage overall, but the fact that the rest of the army wasn't quite able to carry their own weight kind of doomed the Dark Elves here. Especially the Code 1 Knights, even if they charge into the Fimir warriors, theoretically, which they're supposed to be good against, the Fimir warriors with their newly buffed armor-piercing weapon strength can comfortably repel them with the help of friendly Marauders. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I hope you all enjoyed this multiplayer action, and if you want to see more Total Warhammer content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.